I fear not the dark itself, but what may lurk within it. Welcome to Lurk, bringing you creepy, strange, and bone-chilling stories, with your hosts, Tim Harrison and Jamie Jackson.
Hey, Lurkers, it's Jamie.
And Tim. I think my intro every time I come in should be a little different. All right, so Jamie, what are we talking about today?
Oh, today is Creepy Story Day, and I guess it's my turn to talk about my house that I'm currently living in.
This is going to be interesting.
I guess.
I love how you look at the glass half full. You know what I'm saying? You're over here like, I guess. When we all kind of have a premise of what's going to happen. Because nothing really good happens with Jamie when it comes to paranormal. Okay? I'm just going to put that out there. You play some weird EVPs.
I do have EVP.
You go to some weird places. And then most importantly, you just honestly capture some of the very weird photos. So you put all those together. It's a lovely time.
I don't have any weird photos from my house, but I do have EVP.
EVP.
Not E.T. Have you seen that movie?
Yes, I have seen E.T.
I'm just checking. My house is dated to about 1880. That's when we know it was there in the town in 1880.
So it's 213 years old.
Now 141.
It's 2020. 2021.
Mm-hmm. Minus 1880.
Oh, it's 1880?
1880. Yeah.
My bad, bro.
Yeah. But it is probably most likely it's actually been there longer, but there was this map drawn of the town, and this guy actually put up scaffolding and stood up to view the town from above and made detailed drawings and made a lithograph of it, which was kind of the thing back in the day. And the houses are actually drawn even with the correct number of windows and outbuildings in the yards, and our house is there on that drawing.
So a lithograph is basically like old-time Google Maps?
Yeah, in this sense, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's at least 140 years old. I think it's probably was there prior because it's in the drawing already built. It didn't just pop up in 1880, so it's
just documentary.
That's as far back, and the plan is to go and do a deed search and find out when it was built, or try to find out when it was built. But COVID happened and you couldn't go, and now I'm really busy, so it'll have to wait. So in 1902, it was purchased by a man. I'm just going to call him John. That's his first name. I'm not giving any details because I really don't want anybody to be like super creepy and
John
figure out where my house is.
Dingleheimer Smith.
That's not his name.
His name is my name too.
Oh, Jesus.
Whenever I go out, people always shout.
There goes John Jacob Jingleheimer Smith.
So John,
So John purchased the house in 1902 for $1,200. Almost $1,300.
Could you imagine buying a house for $1,200
No,
today?
I know how much the house cost about 6 years ago, so no, I can't. He and his family ended up having renovations done on the house when they bought it, and they added on to the back of the house.
So an addition?
Kind of, yeah. You can't really tell. We could tell when we pulled up the floor.
Original footprint?
And you can see where the original footprint ends and the addition was added to
Do you have stone in your house?
Foundation is stone.
Wow.
Yeah. And there's a part of the floor is dirt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he added to the back, I think he added 2 bedrooms. He added 3 bay windows. There was a newspaper article that actually said he was erecting bay windows, back buildings, and laying new pavement. New pavement, I guess. I'm guessing there was like a patio area. I don't know. I don't know what new pavement meant in 1902.
I mean, it sounded like you had a handyman.
He had money.
Oh.
Is what it sounds like, really.
Do you think they're Big John?
In 1914, he actually filed for divorce from his wife, claiming desertion. So he said she left him. So he filed for divorce. It appeared to be pretty ugly because it's in the paper. You can find all this in the newspaper.
I was going to ask you that. Why is his renovations in the paper? Why is it?
That's what they did back then. Everything was Facebook.
It's like Kathy down the street wiped her butt twice today.
Yeah, when you're doing genealogy, newspapers are full of really good information, assuming your family likes to tell everybody what they're doing.
Not anymore.
Well, look at Facebook. It's kind of hit or miss. Some people share everything. Some people share nothing.
I'm going to go off on a tangent here real fast, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You know how they have Facebook groups like the town you live in?
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely hate the Facebook group of my town. I hate it so much. I've been trying to get out of it. I don't know how to get out of it.
You click the button that says leave group.
Probably should do it not looking at my phone. Probably should go actually into Facebook and do it. But, like, every time there's a little noise. Did y'all hear that noise? Did y'all hear that noise?
Tim, that's every group.
It's like, well, listen here, Betsy. No, we didn't, okay?
Noises, loud booms, Comcast being out, or a problem with whatever Wi-Fi network you have. How are the roads when it's wintertime?
Or what is it? Contractors. I love the one that puts contractors up. They're like, do you guys know someone that can do my deck for cheap? And all of a sudden they reply 2 days later, hey, sorry, I didn't read everyone. Can everyone re-put it back in? No, Betsy. Betsy, now.
Go find your original post.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I feel your pain, but that it's every single group.
You may proceed.
So anyway, he was getting divorced. They were fighting over alimony and court fees and all that stuff. So they, as far as I know, they did end up getting divorced. On May 28th, 1922, John died from complications from a stroke that he suffered a couple of days prior, and he died in my house.
What?
He died in my house.
That's such a turn of events.
Yep. So the funeral was held a few days after he died, and he was probably laid out for the funeral in my living room because the funeral happened in the house.
Is that like how they used to do it, though? I know.
Yeah, there's been at least 2 other funerals in my house since his death, from what I can remember. Friends of ours actually had helped do research on the house, and they had told us about it. I think it was 2 other funerals, so 3 that I know of.
Did your home turn into like a funeral parlor? Or
No, that's what they did. They would lay them out, and that's where you had the viewing and everything was in your house.
Okay.
Yep, so I had at least 3 dead people in my living room.
You bring a whole new meaning to I see dead people.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's creepy.
Yeah. So August 1923, the house was auctioned off by his ex-wife. I'm assuming she was his ex-wife at this point, but she was his heir. And they auctioned the house, and it auctioned for $4,200.
I mean, it's a $3,000 turnaround investment. That's
Yeah, but he made improvements to it, too. Eventually, I'm going to say in the mid-70s, the house was divided into apartments. So there was a first-floor apartment and a second-floor apartment.
So 1970 or 1870?
19. Yep. We're fast-forwarding through.
Okay.
So my husband, who was not my husband at the time, he moved into the second-floor apartment.
You mean that sexy based on the second floor apartment?
Yes.
Is that what he was?
Yeah.
That's what he was. Okay.
I'm so glad he doesn't listen to this sometimes.
Why didn't he listen to this?
I don't know, but you'd think he would, but he doesn't.
Well, my wife doesn't listen to it. It's okay. My mother-in-law does. Hey, Shelly.
So, anyway, that's where he lived before we got married. And it was not super creepy there. Not a whole lot went on when we were...
Well, it was an apartment.
Well, it was an apartment. Sometimes you felt like there might be somebody there. You'd hear noises, but the landlady lived downstairs. So it was just explained away as being noises coming from her apartment downstairs.
So y'all just blame the old lady?
Yeah. I mean, like footsteps and stuff like that. You're not going to think ghosts. I mean, I usually think ghosts, but there's an explanation. If she's walking downstairs, obviously there's going to be footsteps.
I mean, you do take a recorder to
House Hunt.
To House Hunt, yeah.
Anyway, like I said, the property owner, who was also our landlady, she lived downstairs in the first floor apartment. And we actually were very close to her. She ended up being kind of like an adopted grandmother. And when we got married, I moved into the second floor apartment with my son. So it was 3 of us living in a 1-bedroom apartment. So basically our living room area upstairs we turned into my son's bedroom. And we just didn't really have a living room. The TV, our room, the master bedroom is large. So, which is the room that we had upstairs. So we kind of divided it, and half of it had like a couch with the TV. So we had like a place for everybody to watch TV. But for the most part, that's what we did to save money. At this point, Ethan, my son, would randomly ask me what I wanted. And I'd be like, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, you called me.
Oh.
I'm like, no, nobody called you. And I didn't even hear anybody call you. I didn't even hear any noise that might sound like somebody called you. So this happened a few times where he would, come to see what I wanted and I hadn't wanted him. So, he was hearing somebody call his name. From the moment we moved in there, he slept with the bedroom light on every night.
Okay.
So he was about 7, about 7 or 8 when we moved in there. So he started sleeping with the bedroom light on. Not a night light, but the main big light.
Yeah.
And he did that until he was like 12. He'd probably kill me for saying that, but...
Well, I mean, you got something that's calling your name. You know what I mean? I think anybody with any kind of understanding how freaky that might be will understand.
I think one of the stories I need to share in the future is actually stories about Ethan when he was little.
Easy.
He used to see things when he was younger.
Poor Easy.
So sleeping with the light on wasn't unusual. But he didn't do it because we lived with my parents. He didn't do it in that house, but he did it at this one. Mm-hmm. And he had his own room there too, so it's not like he wasn't used to being by himself. So near my room, bedroom door, is the door to the attic, and we would hear the door rattle.
Like someone's trying to open it?
Like somebody was trying to open it. And it's the old original attic door. We have steps that go up to the attic.
Skeleton key, by the way?
No, it's not a lock like that. It's got an old latch. You close it, and then it has like a flat metal piece that you slide over top.
Yep.
And it locks it in place. It's a weird mechanism, but...
Hey, it worked.
It works,
That's all I gotta say. It worked.
Right. So you'd hear the door rattle like somebody was trying to get out of the door. And right there in that area, we had a rabbit, and the cage was right there near the attic door. And the rabbit would sometimes freak out, like something had startled it.
Well, I mean, animals are known to see things.
Yeah, exactly. The landlady, she ended up passing away not too long after we had been married. She was having a lot of medical problems, and she did not die in the house. She ended up going to a nursing home and passed away there, and we were able to acquire the property. So we immediately began turning it back into a single-family home. Of course, that requires renovation, and renovation usually means you're going to stir up...
Pee something off.
Yeah.
What was it? You told me that. What was it? Even painting and stuff like that is considered, to us, it's not renovating. It's just like you're giving it a facelift, where to them...
You're changing it.
As a spirit perspective, you're changing something. They're like, hold on.
Yeah.
Not today, Satan.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. The house is still, honestly, in the middle of renovations. We have a gutted bathroom. It's not gutted anymore. We've got the plumbing roughed in. And
I mean, you were in my house last night. You see, I'm doing renovations, so it's okay.
Yeah. So it's a constant ongoing process. The house is 140 years old. There's always something to do in this house. Always. Yeah. And every time you do something, let me tell you, it is never easy. There's never a straightforward fix to anything. Trust me. Nothing is plumb. There are no square corners. The floor is not even. You go downhill and then go uphill, walking in the same direction. It's old.
Yeah.
It's old. It's very frustrating sometimes.
I can hear it in your voice.
It is. And a lot of the frustration actually comes from the 1970s renovations, not the 1800s builds, which,
in my personal opinion, and people can say what they want online, as we got, even now, it's even hard to find a good contractor now. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, it's hard. And my brother-in-law builds houses. He's phenomenal. His craftsmanship is through the roof. But he's so busy because they take their time on homes, where it takes a bigger company 6 months to pop out a house.
Right.
But the material they use, not as good. Mm-hmm. The detail, not as good, because they have 20 people there that don't care. So, yeah, there's a lot of issues. So, sorry.
No, that's okay. No, you're completely 100% true. When you had a 2x4 back then, it was actually 2 inches by 4 inches. Because if you're listening and you don't know, a 2x4, if you measure it, is not actually 2 inches by 4 inches. It's smaller.
It is.
So you have that. You're using wood that was actually the actual dimension of what it was called, and now it's not. And
wood back then was made from real trees.
Yes.
Where nowadays, not saying all of it isn't, but due to the high demand, it's like this makeshift wood, it works, I guess, but,
I use real wood in my renovations.
I'm gonna leave that alone.
I know.
Oh man, I wanted to.
I know.
Oh
We'll behave.
man.
So before I get into everything, I'm gonna give you an idea of the layout of the house.
Okay.
Pretty simple.
Now this is post apartments.
This is the layout of the single family home. So this is the layout of the house as it would have been originally, basically. You walk in the front door, and the stairs leading to the second floor are right. You walk in the door, the steps are not directly in front of you, just slightly off to the left. They're against the wall. So the side of the house is
stairway
right there to the left. It's against the side of the house. Directly in front of you is the hall, and that leads into the kitchen. You can see into the kitchen from the front door. Down the hall into the kitchen.
Okay.
And the steps go up on the left. And then on the right, when you come in, is the entrance into the living room. So our living room's in the front of the house. And then the dining room has an entrance way from the living room, and then also one that goes into the kitchen. So you can walk you walk in the front door, you can go into the living room, go in the dining room, kitchen, come down the hallway, like kind of like a circle. It's not a super open, like more modern houses, but there are entranceways you can kind of go around in a circle between those rooms.
You want to keep doing that?
I'm going to keep making a circle motion with my hand, yes.
Okay.
It's for your benefit.
Thank you.
I talk with my hands. It's really hard to not do that.
You're like, it's a circle. It's like, it's a circle. And then I look back over and it's like, it's a circle, Tim.
It's a circle. Look,
Tim,
I'm
it's
drawing
circle.
a circle in the air.
Look, do you know what a circle is, Tim?
Oh, God.
Do you? I watch NASCAR, okay? I know what a left turn is.
I was drawing it on a right turn circle, not a left turn circle. So you go down the hall into the kitchen. The dining room entrance would be to your right. And then straight ahead is you keep walking through the kitchen. To the back of the kitchen, there's a door. And that was what was the downstairs bedroom. For the landlady, it's now our den. It's just kind of like, that's where Ethan hangs out.
He hangs out in the dead lady's room?
She didn't die there. She didn't die in the house.
called dead lady's room.
Okay. You go straight through the kitchen. The den is right ahead. You can see the door to the den from the front door. So you can look all the way down the hall into the kitchen and see the door to the den. And then just to the left, there's the gutted bathroom, the bathroom that's not completed yet. And then there's the door into the laundry room. That used to be a sunroom, so it's on the back of the house. It used to be a porch. They converted it to a sunroom. It's now the laundry room. It's large. It's a large room.
Large and in charge and looking for chickies.
It's not like just a small little laundry room like you would think now. And then the entrance to the basement, which doesn't really, actually does come into play here. The entrance to the basement is in the kitchen. When you walk into the kitchen from the hallway, you would go right to go to the dining room. The basement door would be immediately to the left.
So the den's off the kitchen?
The den's off the kitchen.
That's a perfect den.
It used to, yeah, I know.
That's a perfect den.
It used to be a porch. It's actually built on a cement slab. So
perfect.
That's what was constantly, things just plopped wherever.
Okay.
And let me tell you, painting that room, it doesn't look like the floor. The floor is very uneven. Mm-hmm. Where I used to have my desk in this room, and I had an office chair on wheels, and it would roll backwards because there's a slope. It actually is much worse than that because I was painting, and I actually had trouble painting because the room suddenly got larger because the floor dropped down, so the walls were bigger, and what I could reach before I couldn't reach anymore, and was jumping with the paint roller on the pole, because I couldn't get the very top.
You know why the slab sloped?
Because the ground has heaved underneath, or because it was poured in the 1900s, early 1900s. One or the other.
I thought they did it for runoff purposes.
Because it would be running into the house.
Oh,
yeah, the way it sloped towards the house.
Oh,
yep.
It sloped away.
No, in fact, we don't even know what we're doing with the floor. So there's self-leveling cement that you can get. We can't even use it because the pitch is greater than 2 inches. The change in elevation is more than 2 inches. It's that bad. It is seriously. I don't even know. I think it's just going to be really...
The elevation increases by 2 inches, Jamie?
More than 2 inches. Not 6, though. Oh, God. So that's the first floor. So you go upstairs to the second floor. At the top of the steps is a small bedroom. That's what... He can't even look at me. That's what used to be the second floor apartment's kitchen.
Okay.
It's now my office / craft room / podcasting / genealogy room. That's my room. So the old kitchen, second floor apartment kitchen, now my office for, simplest term, is straight ahead when you get to the top of the steps.
Don't we call that your haunted room?
Yeah, we're
Okay.
going to get to that.
Okay.
So running parallel with the stairs is a hallway, and that leads to the master bedroom. The master takes up most of the front of the house. And if you look at the front of the house, at the top floor, there's 3 windows. So the window, if you're looking at the house on the left, is a window that is in the hallway. And it actually is directly across from the attic door. And then the other 2 windows in the front are the windows for the master. So the master is the entire rest of the upstairs. So at the top of the stairs, when you get to the top of the stairs, and you have to turn right because the stairs are against the wall.
Right.
Yes, you turn right.
I knew that was coming.
And you go down the hall. You go to the hall to the master, and the attic is on your right. So
Right.
Yes. Well, this is going to get confusing. You keep saying right. So you get to the top of the steps. If you turn right and then turn right again, there's the hall that runs parallel with the stairs.
Well, it's like one of those like little hook things, right? You make like a right turn, like 2 steps, and boom, there's another.
You do like a 180 to go back
to
the master bedroom, to the front of the house.
Yeah, at the back of the house.
Because you're at the back of the house. Yeah. So if you just turn right, straight ahead would be the bathroom. And then my son's room is next to the bathroom. His door would be on the left. So on the back of the house, it's my little office, my son's room. They are on the back part of the house, and the bathroom's on the side. So once we started converting the house back to a single-family home, we began hearing footsteps. If we were upstairs, we would hear them downstairs, and if we were downstairs, we'd hear them upstairs. Every now and then, we'd hear them going up the steps.
All right, so footsteps. Okay, like let's now footsteps like walking. Mm-hmm. Footsteps like it's trying to let you know it's there, or footsteps like it's running.
Just like somebody walking around the house.
So it's minding its own business, just cruising.
Yeah, it was just kind of walking around. And the floorboards creak, but that's not what we heard. We actually heard, it wasn't the floor creaking, it was actually footsteps. You know what I mean? Like when you walk on the floor, you hear the floor creaking. Yeah, like you mentioned in your story, the floor creaked.
Yeah.
Our floor creaks, but that's not what the sound was that we heard.
It's like a distinct, like...
It was a distinct footsteps.
You like how I did that?
That was very good. That's the point. That we had 2 cats at the time, and they often would stare at the steps like they were watching something going up the steps.
I would love to see through a cat and dog's eyes just like for like 2 hours.
Yeah, no, thanks.
See the stuff they see.
So at this point, there's really nothing that's super crazy that's going on. No one was scared or threatened. And honestly, like... I've been scared, but it's more because of being startled and the unexpected, not because I feel threatened. I don't feel anything threatening in the house at all.
No, you just catch you off guard. You're like, oh,
yeah,
snap, something's there.
It's just, there's something you can't see living in your house. It's a little unnerving.
Yeah.
But not because it's done anything to...
threatening.
To threaten, yeah. So then one summer, it was really hot out. I think it was pushing like 90 degrees. And we're sitting in the living room and the fan on the furnace kicks on. So we don't have central air.
Uh-huh.
The fan turned on, stayed on for a few minutes, and then actually shut off. The thermostat was turned off and the temps were too high for it to even turn on. So my husband, who is an HVAC technician, was going to go check it. He actually called his coworker, his buddy, and wanted him to come check it. He didn't want to go in the basement. He got ragged on quite a bit about the ghost in the basement, being scared of the ghost.
So there is some chinks in the iron, eh?
Yeah. He did go down and check it. He couldn't figure out why it would turn on. It has never done it since. And like I said, we don't have central air, so it's not like, it was because it was hot out and the air was kicking on. We have window units. That's going to be changed. One of the renovations that's going to be happening here. We have the new furnace and the central air are currently sitting in my garage. So we honestly do not have central air. There's no reason for anything to turn on at this point. It's turned off at the thermostat. There's no reason for it to kick on whatsoever.
Okay.
We're continuing to hear footsteps. Cats are still watching the steps. They stare at things in the house only they can see, the way cats seem to do. Ethan still every now and then would think that we called him, and he would yell from upstairs, "What?" And we'd be like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "You called me." And we're like, nobody called you. Nobody called anything. There wasn't even a loud sound from the television, nothing. There's no reason to think that. It had been going on for a while, several months roughly, no issues. So when Ethan was around 11 or 12, he started walking home from school on his own. Because when you're 12 in Pennsylvania, you don't need daycare anymore, and most daycares don't accept 12-year-olds. Not that he needed a babysitter, just more... Supervising, yes. So he started walking home on his own, and he'd only be at the house for about an hour by himself. He'd get home, and I'd be home in about an hour. Sometimes a little less, sometimes a little bit more, but roughly an hour.
Okay.
He'd been walking home for several months, no issues at all. He had to call me when he got home, lock the doors behind him, the typical safety measures parents tell kids when they're home by themselves. We had 2 dogs at the time. Shadow was an older Border Collie Lab mix, and Bailey was a younger chocolate lab who weighed about 85 pounds. That's why I said your dog reminded me of Bailey, because she was...
Chunky
monkey. Bailey didn't really like strangers. Sometimes she didn't like people she had met a few times. She was very protective of the house and the people in it. Barked at the mailman, people walking by the house. Just...
At least you know that the dog is aware.
Yeah, she barked and growled, and she's very intimidating sounding. So nobody came up on the porch without us knowing, unless she was sleeping or in the back part of the house. But for the most part, we knew somebody's there. In fact, the lady who would dog sit for us, she's a friend of ours, lives across the street. We even introduced her several times before she'd dog sit, and Bailey still would, for a while, didn't want anything to do with her. She wouldn't even take treats from her. Yeah, and let me tell you, this dog ate everything. She even tried to eat bullets. She ate our expensive backpacking packs, ate them. They were $500 worth of practically brand new backpacking gear. Thank God for the company. It's Osprey. I'll plug them because they're great. They replaced my husband's pack free of charge and repaired mine. They have a guarantee, any reason, anytime, any reason, except for normal wear and tear. But I even told them the dog ate the pack, and they said, just ship them back. You have to pay to ship it to them. Ship it to us. And can you send us a picture of your dog so we can put her up on our wall?
A picture of the poop too?
God, she ate. So she ate everything. So did not take treats from a person that she had met. She just was like, I don't know where they came from. She's very suspicious, which is important in this story. I'm not just saying this for the heck of it. So anyway, one day I get a frantic telephone call from Ethan. He's hysterical. He's terrified. He's crying. He says somebody's in the house and that he could hear them walking around. So this is probably the worst thing a parent could hear when they're not home.
Yeah.
It's, about 45 minutes before I'm going to leave work, and your kid's 20 minutes away, and he says somebody's in your house. I leave work. And I start heading home. I tell my boss, I've got to go home. I have to go. So I start heading home. I still have Ethan on the phone. So I tell him I'm going to call my dad because my parents live about 10 minutes away. So they're slightly closer. And I'm going to see if he's home and see if he can get to the house. I tell Ethan to call Bailey into his room, keep her in the room with him, close his door, put something in front of the door. Because he doesn't have a lock on his door.
You just got Shadow chilling out there rolling around.
Shadow, at this point, she was already hard of hearing. She was older.
What?
Yeah, she's friendly. She's not going to do anything. She's just, she couldn't hear anything at this point. Literally, quite literally, she was going deaf. So I tell him, get the dog, bring her in your room. I'm on my way. I'm calling your grandfather, so hang tight. I call my dad, and he actually was on his way back to the house, and he was only 3 minutes down the road. So I'll go straight to the house. I said, I'm on my way home. He said, okay. So I'm going to call him back. So I call Ethan. He has Bailey in his room. The dog is not reacting at all. She's not growling. She's not barking, which kind of makes me feel better because then I'm like, I don't really know what's going on here. So Ethan has barricaded his door. He's got everything under the sun in front of the door. I don't think any of it really would have prevented anybody from getting in his room, but whatever.
It made him feel better.
Nerf guns. He had his bat, his baseball bat. He was holding that. He's barricaded in his room, and he's telling me, I'm like, what's going on? And he says, I can hear them walking. They're walking downstairs. And he said they're walking from the hallway into the kitchen, and then I can hear them putting something on the kitchen counter. And then he says I hear them walking back down the hall and then going back to the kitchen. My dad gets to the house. I can hear him talking to Ethan through the door that, hey, it's Poppy, open the door. And my dad takes Ethan's phone and he says, both the doors were locked, windows are all closed, there's nobody in the house. He says, I've looked everywhere in the house, there's nobody here. And he says, Bailey, she wasn't even barking. And she didn't bark with my dad because she knows my dad. She lived with my dad, so. Anyway, he stays. He says, I'm going to stay here because Ethan was freaked out. He says, I'm going to stay here until you get home. I was only a few minutes away at this point. So I get home. I double check things. Nothing's out of place. Nothing strange. Because my dad wouldn't know if something had been moved or anything.
Right.
The dogs basically were completely unconcerned. Nobody was here. But Ethan swears. And we've been hearing footsteps off and on.
What about the stuff that he heard getting put down?
There wasn't anything there. But he said it distinctly sounded like somebody was putting something on the kitchen counter, setting it down, and it was loud enough for him to hear in his room.
Okay.
So, I don't know. That's not something we ever heard before. But he was actually telling me play by play as he was hearing it. Like when I was on the phone with him, he's like, now they're walking, I hear them in the hall. Now they're walking in the kitchen. They just put something on the kitchen counter. I can hear them setting it on the kitchen counter. Now they're coming back to the hallway. They might be coming upstairs, and he would panic. And then he says, no, now they're walking back to the kitchen. So it wasn't like he's telling me what had happened. He's telling me live as it's happening. It was continuing the whole time.
It wasn't as
it's happening. He called me when he first heard it. I immediately leave, tell him I'm calling grandfather. I call my dad. I'm on the phone just for like a minute with him saying, please go to the house. This is what's going on. I call Ethan back. So it's still ongoing. The whole time. It didn't stop. After I got home, nothing happened. I didn't hear anything. So that was like the first crazy thing that happened. We kind of laughed. Oh, Ethan was probably scared. But I had already been experiencing the footsteps and things. So I believed that he had heard something. And his fear level was through the roof. So I knew he wasn't making it up. He was really, truly afraid of whatever it was that was going on. Since then, we had doorknobs turn and rattle on many occasions, especially in the master bedroom, where I'll be in the bedroom. You see the knob move.
Not today.
Yeah. You actually see it move.
No.
You hear it rattle, but you see it turn.
No.
Yeah. One night, in the middle of the night, my husband and I are in the master bedroom. It's middle of the night. I don't know, maybe 3 o'clock, give or take. I'm awake because I don't sleep very well. So I was already awake, just kind of laying there. And there's a knock on the door. 3 loud raps on the door. It was loud enough to wake my husband, who sleeps through just about everything. And he sits up, asks what it was, and I'm like, somebody's knocking on the bedroom door. Nobody else is home. Ethan is away with his dad. We're the only people in the house. So there's not anybody who can knock on the door. So I say, go look and see who it is. And he says, no, I'm not looking. I'm not going out there to look. So eventually I had to go to the bathroom. So I have to go in the hallway.
Dirty.
Yeah, it was later. It was a little bit later, but there wasn't anybody there. So I thought, well, I'm going to go check downstairs. I was feeling pretty brave. I go downstairs.
Feeling froggy?
Yes, there's nobody there. The doors are all locked. Nothing's out of place. There's nobody there in the house at all. So a few months later, it happens again, along with the doorknob rattling and moving. So there's a knock at the door and the doorknob's turning and rattling, like somebody's trying to come in the bedroom. This time my husband didn't wake up, even though I was like, somebody's at the door. And he didn't wake up. So this time Ethan was home. And I thought maybe he's sick and knocking on the door, because if he gets sick at night for whatever reason, at this point he's old enough, just go get sick. You don't need to wake me up. Just do your thing and go back to bed. Unless I need to clean up something, I don't really want to know about it. I mean, that's kind of the mom I am. I don't sleep very well, so don't wake me up when I am sleeping kind of attitude. He was 14. This happened within a year, because he's turning 15 next week. So this happened within a year. So he was 14 years old.
You and I know each other at this point in time.
No, because we haven't even known each other a year.
Well,
I knew of you through my mom. But we didn't meet till what, February? I think it was February.
Of this year?
Mm-hmm.
Of 2021?
Oh, no. It would have been 2020, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, never mind. I lied. So we may have known each other. It may have been the summer right before or the fall right before.
Yeah, we just cusped a year, I think.
Yeah.
Because I known you before the pandemic.
That's right. You know what? That pandemic just blurs time.
It does.
It really doesn't feel, it feels like all 1 year. Anyway, so he's 14. Like I said, go do your thing and go back to bed. I don't need to know about it. But he still does it. And so I open the door expecting him to be standing there. And there's nobody there.
No, nah.
So I thought, well, maybe because I didn't get up quick enough, maybe he went back to his room. So I went to his room, opened the door. He is sound asleep. He didn't even hear me call his name. I'm like in his doorway trying to get his attention, like, what did you want? And he's so sound asleep, he's not even responding to me. Lights weren't on in his room. There's no one else in the house but the three of us. And I start feeling uneasy and ended up going back to my bedroom. Like, I just kind of all of a sudden, how you get like the chills, hair on the back of your neck. It was like, yeah, no, I need to go back. So anyway, last year, 2020, I came in possession of an antique rocking chair. This is when things start to get a little crazier. Yeah. It belonged to my great-great-grandmother. This was also the time when I moved my office space up to the upstairs room. It was kind of a craft space, but I didn't really use it. Anyway, I didn't really have too many places to put the rocking chair because you can't use it. It's too old to...
It's more for aesthetics.
Yeah, it's more for nostalgia.
Nostalgia!
Because it was my great-great-grandmother's and it's antique. It's not even really like a pretty rocking chair. It's pretty crudely built. It's a very basic chair. Nothing super fancy at all.
I mean, it had the necessities. That's it. Sit down, rock.
Basically, done. Yeah. I didn't want it to be used, so I really couldn't put it downstairs because grandkids. Mm-hmm. And I ended up putting it up in my office along with an old ceramic crock that also belonged to somebody in my family, but we don't even know who it was. So after we got the chair in the house and up in the room, I began hearing noises come from that room. The door to that room always stays closed. The room needs to be gutted because it was the old kitchen. There are holes that were cut for vents in the wall. It's the original plaster wall can be seen. The paneling was put up in a lot of the upstairs portion of the house rather than repair the plaster.
Yeah.
So there's paneling on portions of the wall, but where the cabinets were on the wall, there's just the plaster. It's crumbling in places. It needs to be gutted. It needs to be gutted. When we're finished with the stuff downstairs that we're doing, that's the room we're going to be doing next.
You better wear a mask when you do that.
I'm not doing any of it.
Well, we're earning better.
Yeah, he does.
Asbestos is big back then.
Well, this was old plaster and horsehair.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Hey, they look back then. They can flip probably.
Yeah. I mean, there's lead paint in that house, without a doubt.
As long as you don't eat it.
I don't. Typically, I refrain from chewing on the windowsills.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
I thought it was so fun back then. I was like,
So I would hear footsteps in the room, and sometimes it sounded like the rocker was moving, like it was rocking. But I wouldn't open the door. I never looked.
And rocking has a distinct sound. It's like
it does. Yeah, it does. And I did not really care to know who was in the rocking chair of the room. And then one night I was sitting at my desk, and the desk is situated against the front wall. It's right next to the door into the room. So my back is to most of the room.
Right.
All of a sudden, it felt like there was somebody in the room with me, and I was very uncomfortable and refused to turn around. It was like, I am not going to, for whatever reason, the rocking chair was what I felt like that's where somebody was, and it was like, I'm not even turning around. So
you're sitting there looking at you?
Like somebody was sitting in the rocking chair looking at me, and I stood up from my desk, shifted over to the door, opened the door, walked through the door, flipped the switch as I went out and closed the door behind me and did not turn around. Like, I can get up out of that room without even looking behind me. So that's what I did because I just don't even need to know. I did not want to know it was behind me. So I tell good old Kelly, my lovely cousin, tell her what happened, and her response was, I always thought that chair was haunted, but I didn't want to say anything because I wanted to see what you'd experience.
That's why I don't want to go ghost hunting with her. So I thought I saw a creature over there. I just want to see if it attacked you. What?
It doesn't really freak me out because if something's attached to the chair, it's probably related to me, and that's okay.
You better hope.
I can deal with that. But there is another item that I did get. It's an antique clock hanging on the wall outside of the room.
Cuckoo.
That Kelly said also she felt was haunted. She told me that before I took the clock. Because she said, well, that's not, it didn't come from our family. So these items came from my aunt when she passed away. So that's why Kelly has a knowledge of what's haunted and what's not. A couple times I thought I saw the rocker moving slightly, and it could have been my mind playing tricks. I never really got close enough to inspect it because it was too crazy. So right before Christmas, and this was this past Christmas, so Christmas 2020, I was decorating. I was planning on having my big annual Christmas party.
I was invited.
You were invited, yes. So I was planning on, it was actually going to be scaled down. It wasn't going to be it was more close friends and family. People that I was around on a regular basis anyway.
And I made the cut.
Mm-hmm. Well, I saw you every week, so.
Yeah, kind of hard. Look
Yeah.
at this face right here.
I know. So I have, I don't know, 20 bins of Christmas decorations.
Oh, poor E.
Yeah, he did help me carry them downstairs.
That's a poor E at that point.
Yeah, he did help this year. He carried them downstairs. So they were stacked up in the downstairs hallway up against the steps. This day I was working in the dining room because each room has specific things that go in specific places. And I walked from the dining room into the kitchen and turned to go down the hall. There was a figure standing at the bins like they were looking in the bins looking for something.
Nah,
or looking for decorations.
No.
And it was blurry. It was like it wasn't sharp outlines. It was like a blurry figure. It was more of translucent, so you could almost kind of see through it. And the top part was like white, so like the shirt part would be white and the bottom part was darker.
So just to put this out there, because Jamie does wear glasses, It wasn't blurry because she had her glasses. It's the object itself.
It was not a clear, it did not look like an actual person standing in my house.
Correct.
It
probably, my best way to describe it is like what I saw too, right? It's like it resembles the shape almost.
It was the shape of a person. You could make out, I can see it in my head. Like, I will never forget what this looked like. Seriously, it's burned in my brain. So
it happened less than 5 months ago, so.
Yeah, it was a person. There was you could see like the hair, you could tell where the hair, the face, the body shape, the pants.
Oh, man.
But it was blurred. It wasn't clear. It wasn't clearly defined. And it was kind of see-through a little bit.
Okay.
And I was really startled. I was not expecting to turn the corner and see that.
I don't think nobody was.
So I ducked back into the dining room and I actually started crying. And it was, and I'm not really.
Okay.
I don't like to do that. And I sure as heck don't like to admit it. But it wasn't because I was afraid. It was because I just had this overwhelming sadness. Like, I just felt so sad. So I got up the nerve to look. And of course, I am messaging Kelly and Angelina that this is going on. So this happened. I'm like, oh my God, this is going on and happening. So I'm like, okay, now I need to look to see if it's still there.
Agent A is just as bad as Kelly. I'm putting that out there. Agent A is just as bad as Kelly.
So I look again. It's gone. It's not there. The next day, I did do some EVPs. So.
Oh, so this is within the last 5 months.
Mm-hmm. Then it was the very next day. So this happened on December 6th because the EVPs were recorded on December 7th.
So this is officially 5 months and 10 days ago.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to play them for you.
This is Jamie. Curious if whoever was here with me yesterday is still here. Can you tell me the name of whoever was with me yesterday?
It said its name.
It did, but you can't make it out.
It's so broken up. But when you said that someone's here with me or something like that, it sounded like I said, yeah. Like, it was just like a irritated, like, yeah. Like, do you not see me kind of, yeah? You know what I mean?
Yes. So here's the second one.
Jamie again. I didn't understand your name. Can you say it slower, please?
Sounds like it says it 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
Like, it wants you to understand who it is. Isn't the original owner's name James?
John.
John?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it sounded like. It sounded like a J. That's all I know. It's like J. I like how you, like, I'm just going to put this out there. I'd be pooping my pants because you straight up had to listen to that, A, and then B, re-ask the question standing in your own house. Like, it's not like you get to ask these questions, you know what I mean, and then leave. you gotta sleep there. So
As a rule, I do not investigate in the place where I live. Like, that's always been an unspoken rule because sometimes you just don't want to know what's there.
also, sometimes it's better just leave enough alone.
Yeah. So this is the third one.
Is there a message you would like to share?
Okay, I'm going to play it again.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to hear on this. Because, of course, the way Tim is listening to this, I'm going to upload the actual EVP onto the episode.
The podcast.
This was I emailed it to myself, so I had a way to let Tim listen to it without having to interrupt recording on the computer. And when I say, is there a message, it actually says something, and with earbuds on the computer, it sounds like either stop bothering me or stop following me.
Okay.
Or stop some 3-syllable word, me.
Is there a message you would like to share?
Sounding says stop following me. It's annoying.
Yeah, it was hard. The only thing I could say definitively was the
Stop.
Whatever, me.
The stop, you hear stop very loud and clear.
Yes.
So whatever's there clearly doesn't want to talk to you. It's like,
No,
leave
but
me alone.
it didn't. If it didn't, then it should just not talk to me.
Don't poke the bear.
Yeah, well. I ended up not having my Christmas party because I had been exposed to COVID. And that was around like I said, this was the 7th of December, so it was a couple days later. I ended up being exposed to COVID, so I had to quarantine in the house, and the only room available was in the office.
All right. Sorry.
Yeah.
This is weird.
Mm-hmm.
Hear me out here, okay? I just got, I didn't mean to hit my phone on it. So I do something called Word of the Day.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to try to increase my vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
So as you're talking about that, there's a word that came through called Tarry. Tarry. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
It's origins Middle English, late 1200s. Okay? It says the meaning of it is stay longer than intended, delay leaving a place. That's not cool.
Mm-hmm.
I can't control when it comes. It literally just came at 9:18 in the morning. It's 9:19 in the morning. Right after you played that. Come on.
It says get out.
I'm sorry. I mean, let's call it that. That's freaky.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. So I had to quarantine in my office. So I had to bring in a cot and sleep in the haunted room for 2 weeks.
Good job.
Yes. I actually, after I set the cot up, I actually stood in the room and said, hey, I don't know who's here, but I don't have a choice. I have to sleep in here and I need to sleep. So I need you to back off.
Yeah.
I legit just said, you don't bother me.
Hey, make it clear. You know what I mean? You got to kind of put it out there.
Yep. And I was also really upset because my life was upended. You know, I have to quarantine. I had to cancel my Christmas party. Then it was like, what if I actually end up with COVID? Then the whole family quarantines. Then Christmas is ruined. That whole thing. I ended up having no problems and actually slept better than I usually do, which was a little weird.
Well, probably it understood.
Well, if my great-great-grandmother is the one associated with the chair, then maybe that was part of the reason. I don't know.
About to say. It sounds like also, my opinion, once the doors are closed, whatever is walking can't come through the doors. So I guess...
It knocks on the bedroom door, so...
Right, like it hasn't learned either to go through doors or walls yet, or it's just kind of it's a residual. That door's normally open, so why is it closed?
Part of me thinks it's a residual. I haven't really noticed anything as far as an intelligent haunting yet. Probably just completely jinxed myself. Actually, I have. That's a lie. I have, because I'm getting ready to tell you about it. Fast forward. I'm actually right now going to talk about it. Fast forward. Most recent experience happened just about a week ago, roughly, and it was mentioned in an earlier episode. I think it's in the Ed Gein episode. I think we mentioned it.
And Ed Gizzles?
Yes, we talked about it in the West Virginia Penn episode that we recorded, but we deleted. We had to start over, but we later mentioned it, I think, in Ed Gein.
Okay.
I was working on the podcast, editing, and nobody else was home. My husband and son were both at scout camp for the weekend, so it was just me, the dog, and the cat. That's it. So I was taking advantage of the free time to try to get a bunch of editing finished because it takes a long time to edit an hour. It takes about 4 hours roughly to edit 1 hour worth of show.
I think it does, but I also think it might take more because you listen multiple times before you even do anything. They kind of like, you know what I mean? You make your markers, then you go in and edit.
No, I go in and I listen and I delete as I go. So I delete out farts, whatever I have to delete. I go through and do that, but then I have to go through and listen again. I amplify. I do most of the editing the first run through, but I have to listen through it again to make sure I didn't screw something up.
And then you add silent thoughts like this.
I was almost done editing the episode, and I had about 5 minutes to listen to and to edit when all of a sudden it felt like there was somebody behind me.
Like putting hands on you or like
I
breathing on you?
I didn't feel anybody touch me. It just felt like there was somebody standing really close, like they were looking over my shoulder watching what I was doing. And at the same time, right across the top of my shoulders got ice cold.
Okay.
I will admit this room is a little drafty. I do keep a space heater in there. Like I said, it needs to be gutted, but that's not how it felt. I'm in that room all the time. I mean, it takes me 4 hours to edit a 1 hour episode, so you all can do the math on how many episodes we have and how much time I'm spending sitting in this chair, in this room, at this desk.
Yeah.
It's a lot of time, and that doesn't even factor in the time spent sitting there researching and typing notes and just stuff that doesn't have anything to do with the podcast, which honestly, right now, lately, most of my time is about the podcast.
Which I know you love.
Yes, or I wouldn't do it. So.
And the picture of my ass I send you every day too helps out.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely a motivation. So my shoulders are ice cold, and it's only the tops of my shoulders. Almost like you said, if somebody was leaning over me touching my shoulders, that was the area that was ice cold.
It's like a welcoming touch though, you know what I mean?
It was not, there was nothing welcoming. Okay. I was freaked out. Like, I was like, there's somebody I can't see legit standing behind me looking over my shoulder, which let me tell you, that irritates me. If a human comes up behind you and is reading over your shoulder, that's irritating. I can't stand that. It's a pet peeve.
And that's something too. Oh, we'll talk offline. Sorry.
So anyway, at the same time, the lights are kind of flickering in the room. So I hurried up. I finished what I needed to do. I was like, I'm not stopping with 5 minutes left. I'm finishing up this editing on the last 5 minutes. So I finished it, did the same thing where I got up, opened the door, turned the light out, and got out of the room and closed the door, never looked behind me, never turned around. I was so freaked out about it that when I had to get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, I woke the dog up and made her go with me. She was my dog gives side eye pretty good. She was just like, I don't know what your problem is, but I'm not getting up. But I made her.
Okay.
I made her go to the bathroom with me. I don't know why. She is not ferocious. She's small. She's 18 pounds. So we no longer have Bailey. Bailey passed away. So now we have Lucy, who is 18 pounds and not going to tear anybody up.
We're going to miss you, Bailey.
Yes. A few days later, I'm sitting there and the same thing happened. Exactly the same way. The lights were also flickering. And I've since asked my husband to check the wiring in the room or to check the light because I thought it could be a loose light bulb. It could be a loose wire. You know, like they have the wire nuts on the wires. Maybe that came loose. Most of the wiring in the house has been replaced. We no longer have knob and tube wiring. That got replaced right away, immediately. The upstairs has like mid to late 70s era wiring, so I don't know. We haven't replaced any of that yet. It could just be a wiring problem, but you know, there's other crap going on. Who knows? So he hasn't checked it yet, but I asked him. And I also do a lot of genealogy in this room. I research quite a bit. And then with the podcasting, I'm kind of leaning towards the fact that things have all of a sudden started getting a little bit more involved and more like an intelligent haunting, that the interest has been sparked in whatever is there. Because they say, and a friend of mine, Angelina, has had some things go on at her place that she's been told when you are researching genealogy, you're kind of inviting your ancestors in, type of thing. You know, like you're paying attention, so they're like, oh, hey, they're reading about me, type of thing.
Okay. So,
anyway, that's what's been going on in my house.
That's
Continues.
That's not cool.
No, let me tell you, getting home at 1 o'clock in the morning and having to go upstairs when there's not a freaking light on in the house is not fun.
Well, it's my fault.
It was.
Actually, it was.
Mm-hmm. So that's it.
Sounds like to me, personally, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Due to the fact that what we've been researching and what we've been looking into, you're probably opening yourself up more than normal. I think it's inviting things. My personal opinion.
Oh, I agree. I agree. That's my thought. That I probably need to spend time saging the house, which would be burning sage, which helps get rid of negativity, negative spirits. It's a cleansing. It's how you cleanse the house.
That's true.
I may or may not have flicked a little bit of holy water around because I do have a bottle of holy water.
Probably need a gallon of it.
Well, I used that. My aunt is very devout Catholic, and she was not comfortable with the ghost hunting that my brother and I had started doing back long time ago when we started going to ghost hunt. And she brought us a giant coffee can full of holy water. It's just a empty coffee can full of holy water. It had saran wrap on the top, and it was in our refrigerator until the can rusted, and my mom threw it out. So then she started getting us the little plastic bottles of holy water. So that's what I have. I have the last bottle, the little plastic bottle of holy water sitting on my counter. So when you mentioned the gallon, yeah.
Oh, golly.
And there were a lot of jokes about putting it in a super soaker and hosing ourselves down, that sort of thing. You know.
Just gonna leave that alone.
Yeah, I do have holy water in there. So I may have splashed a little bit of it around just to, make sure nothing. I don't think there's anything evil in the house. I don't feel things kind of spook me and scare me because you're not expecting it, but it's not because it's threatening.
Alrighty. I think we should do an update episode later. A,
Yes.
to see if you sage. B, if anything changed. And then C, what happens after you sage or if you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Jamie, tell everyone where they can find us at.
They can find us wherever they listen to their favorite podcasts and at lurkpodcast.com, where you can find show notes and you can find all of our social media links. I suggest liking one or all of them: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, just because that's where we post photos that we may discuss. I do have a photo of my house in the 1920s. Or maybe 1930s, so I'm gonna post that. And anyway, that's where you can find us.
Alrighty, well, until next time.
Keep lurking.
I gotta take a massive dump.